Okay, it was a great paper day. What's defined as a great paper day? A paper with really good articles, interesting stories, runs the gamut of every type of subject. That's a great paper day for me. I know just even talking about this is all weird, but being someone who likes the newspaper and has read it every day for the last, gosh, probably going back 9 years in a row without missing a day, I love the newspaper. And it's like reading history, a brand new history book every day. Let me turn this fan down a little bit. Okay, so I'm standing up today because I'm off. I'm not dressed for work and reading the paper before work today because I took the day off and went water sliding. But let's get to it. Front page, July 15th. Iran agreement. Iran has reached an agreement with the 5 major world powers regarding its nuclear abilities. The agreement basically centers around 10 years of reduced nuclear capability for Iran, and what they'll get in return is the lifting of sanction. There's some fears and cheers. The fear, Israel thinks this is a horrible deal. All it does is allow Iran to continue to try to find some way around the inspectors, around all the increased scrutiny, and build a bomb and become a nuclear nation. Because the point is, once you get the bomb, that's it. You've now got the football. And it's too late after that. You can't stop them. Once they've got the bomb, the threat is there now. And Israel does not want Iran to be nuclear. So, you want to read more about what it takes to become a nuclear bomb nation. There's a lot of uranium enrichment to certain percentages. And Iran's not there, but they have a lot of piles that they could enrich. It takes a long time. The proper centrifuges and stuff. Anyways, so that was front page, and Obama loves it. It was a key thing for him that he wanted to get dealt with and done before he leaves. So the agreement's there, and we'll see what happens. Sid Bass, who is a famous billionaire Texan, has just dumped a bunch of money into Bluebell. Bluebell was in our news the other day when we were talking about the listeria outbreak and how governments are going to start finding companies who hurt people physically when it comes to food and make them sick. Bluebell is a loved Texas ice cream, Deep South ice cream. When we moved out here from California and had it, it's great. It's really good ice cream. Anyways, they had to close all their plants down, lay off all their workers because of a listeria outbreak. But people are loyal to Bluebell. People love it. Anyways, following the Warren Buffett strategy of investing, Sid Bass said, hey, there's nothing wrong with this company other than bad news. And so he buys it at a rock bottom price, and good on him. Other front page news, Jordan Spieth, he's from Dallas, and you think I would know his name. He's set for the Grand Slam. He got the U.S. Open. He won the Masters. And now he's going to try to win the British Open. And then there's one more that he needs to win for the Grand Slam. Extremely hard in golf. If you ever golfed, you know that it's hard to golf. And when you have a good day, that's great. You can go tomorrow and do horrible. For this guy to win the Masters and the U.S. Open is actually stunning. This guy is the next Tiger Woods. I mean, he's really, 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 really good. So good luck to him at the British Open in Scotland. With the escape of the Sinaloa cartel leader, will things heat up along the border? When he was here before he had been arrested and sentenced, and before he was caught, he was the guy building all the tunnels along the border states with Mexico. And he has the rivals, the Jalisco cartel, the Gulf cartel, the Juarez cartel. These cartels war over trade routes. Sinaloa is typically the biggest of the cartels. And now that El Chapo has escaped, what will it mean for the Texas border cities? Did you know that El Paso is the border city for Juarez? And yet Juarez was at one time listed the most dangerous city in the world, yet right over that fence, El Paso was listed as one of the safest places to live in America, with 1 murder, or 2. And Juarez with, 1,700. But anyways, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Photos of Pluto. Horizon spaceship has flown past Pluto, and we now have our first pictures of what Pluto and its moons really look like. Not very interesting to me. Although I do love looking at those pictures on the internet. You know, give me the full book of those pictures when they're all done. I don't want to see one at a time. Jade Helm begins. Jade Helm was the American military exercises that were going to take place locally in some of the southern states. If you might have heard on the news or read in the paper, if you read it, that they were making fun of Texas for the Texas citizens saying we want observers with the Jade Helm exercise because we think it's preemptive to martial law. Of course, I don't think that's what the government was doing, but the governor of Texas said that he would send monitors just to keep in touch with what's going on, and that's fine. He just wanted to give people, you know, people were calling him crazy for giving into the nut jobs, but I think what he was doing and what he said himself was he was just given a resource so that those who wanted answers could get daily answers. To Kill a Mockingbird is a really famous book. If you haven't read it, read it. It centers around the trial of a black man and a lawyer named Atticus that attempts to get him set free, and then the trial and whatnot. And it was a great story about race relations and helping and shady law enforcement and so forth. Anyways, well, that had been a popular book by Harper Lee for so long. Well, then come to find out, she had a manuscript written called Set a Watchman, and it's about Atticus later in life. And so anyway, big, crazy to do. The book's been released, and the release was today and last night, and so people are gobbling that up. What's interesting is it's him fast forward, and he's actually a racist. I don't know the thinking behind that, but I imagine that people who used to love him as the attorney in To Kill a Mockingbird are going to now hate him. So I don't know what the intent was there, but a book's a book. There was a man who killed his wife in Texas and then fled to India and now is back in Texas after being captured in India. That would just be a normal story any other day of the week, but here's what happened. He killed his wife, was on bail for $500,000. He got this bail scam going on by meeting the judge, releasing him on bail to get his house in order before his trial and before his sentencing. So that $500,000 bond gave back to him so he can settle a civil lawsuit, and he made a deal with the attorney and the judge in that suit. So that, anyways, long story short, so that this dude gets money that he can escape with to go to India. One judge was sentenced to prison, and the attorney in that case was sentenced to prison. And we're not talking short terms. The judge got 2 years, and the other guy, I think, got 6 years. Anyways, that guy is now back in Texas to finish the sentence. But he had been on the lam for a long time living in India, big, tall, skinny white guy. In Houston, a clerk killed 2 robbers. These dudes tried to come in and tried to rob this guy behind the counter. His homeboy was on lunch break. He came out, saw these 2 dudes in masks trying to jack, and pop, shot him dead. And that's what you get. You're dead. Now you're dead. How did that work out for you? Worked out bad because now you're dead. You got to be careful when you're rolling up into these stores. You know, in some states and in some nationalities, you might have a better chance of robbing a store. But man, you come to Texas where they just love shooting people and love fighting and love everything gun and justice. This is not the state that you want to rob somebody in, because they will come out of that break room like, what's going, man, you know, boom. So anyways, those guys are dead. An officer was pulling over a lady for talking on the cell phone, and he ends up saving her from choking to death on her dry chicken sandwich. Caught on video, coincidentally. I don't know if y'all have had those chicken sandwiches, but like those chicken in a biscuit, those sandwiches from like Whataburger, or those Carl's Jr. nasty imitation Egg McMuffins. Oh man, those things are the bread is so dry. Like, if I drank a bottle of water and then ate that chicken sandwich, it would suck all the water out of me in just like half a crumb. And one crumb, you drop it in there and just I dry up, and then you're hungry though, so you keep taking more bites, and before you know it, man, you've got half a chicken sandwich in your jaw, and it's latched on, and it's sucking the moisture, it's sucking it out of your face, your throat, you can't swallow, you're trying to pour more water on it, and it's growing, and that's just half, and then you put another half in there, it's no good, you're starving. Don't eat those chicken sandwiches, y'all. Those things will kill you. The rains that we've been having, the abnormal amount of rain, is going to put a dent in the oyster and shrimp, the shrimp that we all eat out here. The water runoff comes towards Galveston Bay. The dredgers and stuff are pulling. But the good news is, there's good and bad to all those things. It'll be maybe a slow year this year, but next year, they'll have a little bit more. It's like fertilizing the bottom of the water out there, and which is particularly great for clams and oysters to grow. So the population next year would be great. There was a town in Iowa that was having a raffle, and you could join this raffle, and the winner, as a prize, would get to use the stun gun on one of the city employees, I think the sheriff or something. Word got out, the ACLU wanted that shut down, and so they did. Man, does the ACLU ruins everything. Hey, I want the ACLU at my party, said nobody ever. They ruin everything. So, don't go to Iowa then. Here's a story that's you're gonna be. This is particularly why this was a good paper today. A teen was with her step-grandparents, so it's not her grandparents, so it'd be her mom married a dude, that's her stepdad, and it's his mom and dad, step-grandparents. Her step-grandparents, they were flying in Seattle, and the plane crashed, and it landed and crashed in flames and, blowing up, and her hands are burnt, her grandma and her grandpa are dead. She hikes for 2 days. She survives the wreckage, hikes 2 days, follows the river to a trail to the street. Car comes, picks her up. She said, oh man, I was just in a plane crash. You got to help me. Take me to the nearest town. Takes to the town, calls 911. There you go. So when her story comes out, that'll be pretty interesting. Abortion, the proponents of abortion, the people who hate abortion and stand in front of the clinics all day, they sent in a secret undercover video to get some questions answered on what happens to the fetuses, the little babies that have been murdered after they've been murdered. And on video, the director of Planned Parenthood's abortion clinic saying that, oh yeah, well, you can stand and make a lot of money, and we can find you buyers for, the liver and the organ for this tissue research. And so they kill the baby that they don't want, committing murder, and then they sell the body parts, and just disgusting. I don't know how these people live with themselves. It's just horrible. Find Jesus, man, because otherwise, 27 Hindus died in a river stampede. They wash in this river during a couple of their holy festivals, and there's a grip of people in India, y'all. If you've never been, if you bump into an Indian in the supermarket or something, and he just bumps into you and keeps walking, don't worry. He grew up in a nation where dudes were bumping into each other all day. That's normal. That place is crowded. And so anyways, 27 died in a stampede trying to get in this river and do that holy washing. More bulls have claimed lives in this running of the bulls deal that's going on. Bulls 5, man 0. Them bulls are winning. They're not dumb. They've been doing this a long time too. This is your first time running. This is the 25th time for these bulls chasing you. They're going to get you. Trump piñatas are selling like hotcakes at Mexican, what would you call one of those stores that makes piñatas? At Mexican novelty stores, how do I say that real fancy? Mexican novelty stores are selling Trump piñatas today. So that they're flying off the shelf because Mexicans want to beat Trump's head for the comments he's making. Dallas has 32,000 potholes currently. Where are my tax dollars going for, yo? Going for, yo. Going for, yo. Fix the potholes. Ex-NFL player Jawan Dawson dead in Lake Lavon. I was saying in a few paper ago recordings when we were talking, people are dying in these lakes and whatnot all around Dallas-Fort Worth. Constantly, kids are drowning. The mom whose 3 kids just drowned. Like, it's in the paper. It's constant. They will not always report that on the news. If you watch the 6 o'clock news, it's just major stories of what they deal with. But you know, a lady loses a kid in Irving. A kid drowns in Haltom City. Another kid drowns in Keller. You know, it doesn't get much exposure, but the newspaper has time to do that. So, anyways, this ex-NFL player, Jawan Dawson. He wasn't wearing a life raft, a life jacket. Rumors were he didn't know how to swim, and he's on the back of one of those. They tow you on that big raft, the one that bounces and stuff. Man, that is. Listen, I give props to the guy for being brave. Like that's that's bravery. You know, I'm brave. I'm not worried about the fact that I could die if I just lose my grip. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I like to have safe bravery, where there's an element of protection before I'm brave. But nope, he just jumped on it. Well, it flipped him over and he died. They found his body late, 10 o'clock last night. GM is going to invest $1.4 billion in upgrading the Arlington plant. For those you don't know, Arlington is really close by here. It's right outside of Fort Worth. And that's where GM does all its SUVs and really nice cars. And they've been expanding and growing. And now they're saying they're going to spend another $1.4 billion in upgrading that. So that's going to be cool. More jobs. And then lastly, digital disaster insurance is on the rise because there are more companies who are willing to pay for these premiums to have the digital disaster insurance kick in and compensate them in the event that there is a digital disaster insurance claim. All right, so that's it for the paper. Like I said, lots of good articles. It wasn't boring. Actually took 8 minutes longer than it normally does. Fancy that. And then for lastly, today in history, 1979, French soldiers in Egypt discovered the Rosetta Stone, which proved instrumental in deciphering ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. You know, there's that company now called Rosetta Stone. Teach you to read Spanish and learn Spanish. Yeah. The real Rosetta Stone was a key, if you will, a legend, so that we can interpret what the symbols meant. 1932, this day in history, President Herbert Hoover announced he was slashing his own salary by 20%. From 75 grand to 60 grand a year. Man, in the 30s, that dude was making 75K. He was living large. 1971, President Richard Nixon announced he had accepted an invitation to visit the People's Republic of China. Okay, good for him. President Jimmy Carter delivered his malaise speech in which he lamented what he called a crisis of confidence in America. You know, the crisis in confidence, Mr. Carter, was in you. You talk to anyone of that era and you ask them, hey, who was the worst president in your era? And they usually just go, oh, that's Carter. Yeah, that's Carter. Democrat, old, young, white, woman, it doesn't matter. People just go, oh, that's Carter. Sometimes before the words are even coming out and I'm saying, hey, which President Carter? The guy just knows what I'm asking. 1985, this day in history, a shockingly gaunt Rock Hudson appeared at a news conference with actress Doris Day. It was later revealed Hudson was suffering from AIDS. I remember that. I was actually 10 years old, 11 years old, and I remember watching Rock Hudson on there, and I'm just like, that. I remember because they showed him before the Brady Bunch. It was like right before the Brady Bunch Master Reunion show or something. They showed it, and they had brought him out there, and he was, dude, he was skinny, and yeah, he was cracked out. I think he was a man lover, if I wasn't mistaken. 2010, after 85 days, BP stopped the flow of oil into the Gulf of Mexico using a 75-ton cap lowered onto the well earlier in the week. Yeah. And one more bit of history, or a bit of news that hits a little closer to home. There was let's call them spry retired couple from Idaho by way of California, by way of Bakersfield, by way of Southern California. They made a trip out to see one of their children by Amtrak. You see, this particular gentleman does not like to fly because he says, I know how things work and nuts and bolts and whatnot, and so I know how bad they're put together sometimes, and so they fall. But I try to tell him the facts, and he doesn't care. They fall, and that's all that matters. He doesn't want to be up there. So he took an Amtrak. Well, guess what? It derailed. And so he is now currently stuck in Montana, which no doubt this man loves that roughneck lifestyle, him and his wife. And word is that the authorities are keeping a close eye on him because he does have the tendency to rise up in wrath, like anger, if something does not happen his way. He can become very unstable. Paddy wagons have been brought for this dude before. Anyways, love you, Mom and Dad. Have a great trip from Montana. I pray you get there safely to my sister Dani. Other than that, that was the news.